specialist. I sort of say that because you're in love with Israel, and out of the three of us, I do believe you're the most brown. Um, I I think that might be fair to say. So would you like to introduce us to the world of Donald Trump's, you know, activities in the Middle East over the last couple of days before we have a chance to get to this major China win, which is just
Yeah.
destroying everything?
Yeah,
Take
yeah,
us home.
it's actually been really incredible to see what's been happening in the Middle East, and as we know, Donald Trump set out for the Middle East. He arrived in Saudi Arabia, I believe it was Tuesday. Yesterday, he went to Qatar. I would always say Qatar, Qatar. They don't have a U after the Q, but anyways, Qatar. He arrived in Qatar yesterday, which was Wednesday, and today he was in the United Arab Emirates. I think that's how you say that, right? And he's doing a Middle East tour. It's been pretty spectacular to kind of watch, interesting to say the least, because we really didn't know what he was going to do. I mean, obviously, we knew he was going to be a diplomatic and go and play the diplomat and represent. But man, he's been making deals. Some are a little bit questionable. I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, it's been very interesting. What is your guys' thoughts on that?
Jonathan.
Yeah, man, I like it, man. I know that there's. First of all, I want to say I do feel I feel some of the skepticism, and maybe that's what Matt is talking about. I see that, I hear it. And I don't I can't say for sure. I don't know, to be honest, as far as it being like evil. I know there's a lot of people. Well, I won't say a lot of people, but I know that there's some people that think that this is evil. Maybe what's going on between Trump and the Saudis, and that we're selling our souls over here. I don't know, but it seems like to me, from what I see, that Trump is just doing the deal making that we know him, or he's being the deal maker that we know him to be. And yeah, it's kind of a generic answer, but I'm just going to see how this thing plays out. It was very interesting,
Jonathan,
how they treated him.
Jonathan, you're supposed to say no. We love Donald Trump. We worship him. He's doing absolutely everything great. He's doing everything perfect.
Matt, is that you?
Matt? Sorry, was that Matt? Matt?
Was that? Wait a minute. What screen is? All right. Well, I'm sorry. You're right. So Donald Trump is the best president ever, and I trust everything he's doing in Saudi. Matter of fact, I think it was. That's all I'll say. It was amazing. But no, I just think that it seems like he's deal making, man. I'm just gonna wait. Like they said that they have all these investments, and I know that there was a lot said. I don't want to go too far if I'm jumping ahead about about
what is our first clip,
not including
on that?
Israel or go ahead. I'm
let's-
sorry. I mean to yap.
Let's let our favorite Australian introduce us to the last week's events before we even have a chance to bathe the relish in the China major win. If nothing else had happened this past week, I mean, China would be enough. And so much has happened that China is being overshadowed. Let's go to our favorite Australian.
Donald Trump has reached peak hero status in the Middle East after a hugely successful visit to the region. His latest announcement, the lifting of sanctions in Syria, caused an eruption of mass celebrations on the street.
Oh, so really quick. This is while he's in Qatar, and the guy directly across from Donald Trump. This is Mohammed Al Jalani, which he changed his name now. It is something like Al Shahara. He's changing his name, and so he's the president of Syria.
It's like, I'm no longer in Al Qaeda. My name is now Al Shahari.
Yeah, he's no longer Al Qaeda. He's no longer part of ISIS. He's now in a suit, matching Donald Trump. Interesting.
And he's now reverberating a love that no theater actor could fake for the United States.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has reached
anyway,
peak
let me
hero
just say that again.
status in the Middle East after a hugely successful visit to the region. His latest announcement, the lifting of sanctions in Syria, caused an eruption of mass celebrations on the streets.
So basically, there was this ban for that's been on Syria for like 45 years, and he meets this guy, this Al Sahara. I have to look at his name. I don't know his new name, but he's got a new name now.
I believe it's Paul.
It's definitely not Paul. But yeah, apparently, so Donald Trump had lifted the ban, sanctions on Syria because he wanted to give Syria a chance. And, you know, it's definitely risky what Donald Trump has done. That's definitely a risky move. I don't know that I definitely don't support it. I don't think but I don't know. I mean, but what do you do? But see, this is Donald Trump. He's so unorthodox, right? He does things so out of the box that it's like you never know what he's going to do. So, but this was what taking place in Syria. So obviously they're celebrating, right? Because they have a new country. They're celebrating, right? I mean, we were covering Syria, the fall of al-Assad. And we covered that here on Faith the Nation, and we covered this guy al-Jilani, and now all of a sudden, like it's like they're getting a victory. So 6 months into his reign, presidency, whatever you want to call it, he's gotten a big win, and he got it from Donald Trump.
Trump has truly gone to the Middle East with a goal of peace and prosperity for all, and is acting on this.
I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
That's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, right there. And look at Elon Musk in the back. Look at Elon Musk in the back, right there.
Mm-hmm. Heartfelt Antichrist body language. Let's get through this.
Good.
That's how you guys look at your wives.
Look at Donald Trump giving himself a round of applause.
Jesus.
Prosperity for the troubled nation.
My dear fellow citizens, the path and the road is still long, and we are about to start the revolution of Syria so that we can transform Syria and make Syria a country of work. And
I thought he was going to say that we were going to make Syria great again, to be honest. I really thought he was going to say
prosperity. And from here, we confirm that Syria will commit to
online comment.
Yeah, and I thank you, Brother Harold Lee. I think it is important to preface. Brother Harold Lee says, "I question his support for Syria, but I hope he pushes for support of the religious minority in Syria, especially Christians." I had to look into that, and we'll continue playing this. But there was some stipulations that Donald Trump did give to the president of Syria, basically saying, "Hey, you're not going to fund terrorism. You're not going to be receiving support from Iran." And,
all right, I'm going to let you play, but as long as you stop funding terrorists, that you're going to be okay. You're going to be good. You're going to stop funding terrorists and killing your women. All right, you can play then in our great big store. You can play in our store.
Hit the play button.
Yeah. I know if I do it, you're just going to do it at the same time.
Haters celebrated the news with this person saying, while most Americans probably didn't even hear that President Trump lifted sanctions on Syria, Syrians have filled the streets in
Let's be real. Most Americans are like, what's a sanction?
Celebration. For many, this is life-changing news. This commentator agreed, saying, I will say this. For all my criticisms of Trump this week, if there is one man who can somehow make Syria change from a pariah regime to a functioning country, it's him. I really want to be hopeful this is the start of something new. Not holding my breath, but still. The announcement made Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman visibly excited, with the leader beaming with happiness. As well as giving Syria a lifeline, Trump's visit to the Middle East was very successful for the economic future of the United States, with the president signing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investments and partnerships. Trump then went on to Qatar, where he was given a rock star welcome, and brokered a multi-billion-dollar purchase agreement of 160 planes between Boeing and Qatar, the largest in the history of the company.
And the United States of America. Boeing purchase agreement signed on behalf of the state of Qatar by His Excellency Badr Mohammed Al Mir, CEO of Qatar Airways Company, and behalf of the United States, Kelly Ortberg, President and CEO.
So, let me just jump in here and read this. This is from Grok. Basically, the stipulations, there's about 12 of them. I'm just going to briefly just mention a few of them. Basically, that some of the stipulations are to protect human rights, initially against, some of the minorities, which would include Christians. That is something that they're supposed to be doing. Chemical weapons disarmament. They're supposed to also limit Iranian and Russian influence. And so, this is like a grab at, the potential for a Middle East peace, and also excluding Iran, right? Because in a lot of these countries, like Saudi Arabia, they don't like Iran. Matter of fact, they're enemies, and Saudi Arabia doesn't want Iran to have a nuke either. And so Trump is like coming in, and he's, as you saw right here, you saw a deal that was made with Qatar, $1.2 trillion with Qatar. Now, again, I don't know what to think about that, to be honest, because, Qatar has funded Hamas, right? Qatar is responsible for funding a lot of the pro-Palestine influence within the colleges in the United States of America, so again, I don't really know how I feel about it. I definitely have my head on a swivel.
You're sounding sounding a lot like the left-wing media there, Alex. Okay.
No, well, you know what? You can say that if you want, but that's just how I feel. Yeah, that's just how I feel. I mean, look, and like this. Okay, so for the viewers, I mean, I'm sure everybody's heard by now. Qatar was offering a $400 million Boeing Palace on the air, or on clouds, or whatever they call it, right? This plane that they're gifting to the DOD, right? The Department of Defense or the Air Force. But it's really to Trump. I mean, let's just be real. They're giving it to Trump. They want Trump to have it because it's going to be his Air Force One. Like, I don't agree with that, to be honest. I don't like that. I don't want Donald Trump in a plane that was given from people that fund Hamas. I mean, who's to say? And yeah, like, they're going to have to get this plane, and then they're going to have to dismantle the whole plane and put it back together just to check it for spying or bombs,
sure,
or whatever.
But just keep in mind that part of it, that happens at least, I think it's monthly. I was talking to Liza, because Liza works on airplanes, and she says that all planes are required to be disassembled and assembled. I think she said quarterly or monthly or something like that. So it's quite a common procedure, even if it wasn't, for this type of reasoning.
Okay, well, but still, I mean, yeah, but it's not going to be no regular one. I mean, they're going to have to check the seats for all different types of stuff, right? I mean,
sure,
M&Ms. So, like, I just
no Reese's, no M&Ms, no Ruffles.
Yeah, I just don't want my president in there. I don't want my president in a plane that was gifted from people that fund Hamas. And so I don't know if there's a stipulation to the deal, perhaps, that he's making a deal with Qatar and saying, hey, I'll make a deal with you, but you got to stop funding Hamas, right? Or you got to stop funding. And I would imagine that that's also part of the deal. If he did that to al-Sahara, again, I don't know how they say that guy's name, his new name, but I would hope that there's other stipulations that is happening within that, but man, I mean,
I hope they're going through that plane with a black light.
Yeah.
because
How do you trust? How do you trust people that don't have the Holy Spirit? Really, that are enemies. So that's where I'm at. John, where are you at?
Jonathan, yeah, before we go to Ben Shapiro, Jonathan, our secondary leader in defense of Israel, do you have any thoughts on the subject?
I think Alex echoed a lot of how I feel. I definitely think that Iran doesn't want this unity to happen. I do think that it's positive to isolate them. It's exactly what what Russia's trying to prevent as well. They don't want to be isolated. They don't want to be surrounded. So yeah, I see that happening, and I think that's a positive thing. The leaders of Iran are crazy. Obviously, Qatar, the leader, whoever is funding Hamas, they're crazy too. But it seems like at least they can play ball in some sense. It seems like they are a little more than Iran, who's not playing ball at all, much like a North Korea. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. I also don't like that. I don't want President Trump in that plane either. So pretty much same sentiments.
I'm happy with it overall. When I first heard that about Qatar, the only thing I know about Qatar is that I go to Qatar Center to play the piano, a couple of times a month over there, because that's where I get an audience. But beyond that, I really haven't heard too much about Qatar Center. Let's see what Ben Shapiro had to say on the subject, because I really feel he sort of, it puts the Alex perspective, the side that's a little bit, suspicious of what's going on here. He articulated it pretty well on a segment on Fox News.
That's jobs and investment, but a true reorganization of our relationship with this part of the world.
So first of all, I think to treat each one of these countries as exactly the same would be a mistake. The Saudi national interest is very different than the Qatari national interest. In fact, Saudi and Qatar almost went to war in 2017 because Saudi believes that Qatar is a state sponsor of terrorism, which Qatar actually is. Qatar plays both sides of the table pretty openly. Qatar obviously hosts an amazingly important American airbase, which I think, frankly, we should shift to Saudi Arabia or UAE, because Qatar also has open dealings with the Muslim Brotherhood. They're the number one funders in the Middle East of Hamas. They've spent almost $2 billion funding Hamas. They have relationships with the Taliban. They have a very solid relationship with the government of Iran. The Al Thani family in Qatar has expended extraordinary amounts of money in.
But bro, the entrances, everything that he was getting, like all the camels and all that stuff, that was pretty cool. I thought that was kind of cool.
To understand the graphics that you were showing a little bit earlier, Will, one of the things to understand is that the entire citizenry of Qatar is 2.6 million people. Okay, so when you are comparing the spending of China, over 1 billion people, with the spending of Qatar, 2.6 million people, you have to ask yourself, why is Qatar?
Dude, that guy's kind of tall. That guy from Qatar. He's pretty tall. Donald Trump's not a short guy.
Qatar spending that amount of money on, say, American universities. And if what they're doing in American universities is subsidizing the kind of radicalism that we've seen at American universities, wouldn't that also be their purpose when they are giving gifts to the...
You see, and then that's what he's talking about, like the funding of these universities. Like Qatar is a big funder of that. They're the ones that are giving the money to have these protests. This is why the people that protest and excuse me, give me 1 second. You guys continue.
Department of Defense or to the Trump Presidential Library, or when they are spending an enormous amount of money on a bunch of business dealings that are meant to infiltrate the United States. Qatar, I think, is not to be trusted in the same way as, for example, the Saudi royal family.
Well, that is my last question for you, Ben. I think it's always the question we have to remind ourselves when we are talking to an American audience, but not just that. When we're talking about an ideology, what has taken precedence, which has reached the apex here in America, which is serving America first, American politicians serving America first. And I do wonder, while we celebrate this new partnership, all of this, perhaps reimagining.
And I think more or less what I'm really internally celebrating is We're looking at Pakistan on the brink of war, which we know has also heard they've received a truce with India. Okay, strikes happening on both sides. We've been looking at the war that's been happening in Ukraine versus Russia now going on 3.5 years. We're always hearing about what's happening over there between Palestine and Hamas in Israel, and it seems like there's a lot of pessimism and no reason to be positive about what's happening in the Middle East. So, although I don't claim to be really well educated on all of the political and social dynamics of these individual countries, nor even having heard their names before, it is. I have a feeling and a general impression of like relief and of peace, and that something massively awesome has happened here. And even if it's just theater, but it feels as if we have a lot of reasons to be hopeful when really just a couple of days ago, we had absolutely no reason to be hopeful whatsoever. There was nothing optimistic to be said about the status of the Middle East. And this packaging and this presentation, this particular marketing that's been brought to us by the Trump administration in the past few days, somehow has been able to lift this cloudy, like weather storm or this gloomy perspective that I internally was carrying about the state of the Middle East, and it has painted a lot of hope and a great picture for peace in terms of what's possible. And I love seeing Israel, which I know what the scriptures say about Israel, but I'm not sure about that country in particular. I have a lot of problems with how much we are constantly kissing Israel's butt and how much our foreign policy adds up with them. I love us seeing them coming out of the picture and other people like this being befriended more so, that no one can say that Israel's our best friend at this particular moment. It actually looks as if some of these Islamic countries are really showing us a tremendous amount of love and respect. So we'll just finish up with what Ben was saying there, and
of what's happening in the Middle East. Is there a price? And I think there are critical questions to ask and be careful about here. As we put up on the board here, that's a lot of investment. We're focused on the Qataris here. There's a lot of countries up on that board, from China to UAE. Other countries who have invested a lot in America. And the question is, what are they looking to get out of that beyond economics?
I think that's right. When you're looking at lobbying, that, for example, is a different thing than investment by firms that are located in these various countries. If you're looking at Qatar, Qatar is just the royal family. I mean, the only big moneymakers in Qatar are the royal family. The same thing essentially holds true in Saudi Arabia. These are not countries that are having free-flowing, free enterprise in their own countries, and you have sort of private enterprises investing in the United States. You essentially have royal family backing sovereign wealth funds that are directly investing. And so that's a level of direct control that doesn't apply to some of the other countries that you've talked about.
Yeah. Well, it seems as if we've lost our friend Alex in the meantime while he's in babysitting mode. Yeah, I don't know, Jonathan. I mean, neither one of us are probably, real students of the Middle East, but how do you feel on the hope front in this compared to the despair of a lack of peace in the Middle East, at least with these presentations?
I feel like it's good. I think that I have faith in the president, right? And I know it's kind of scary to say that on this show, because the moment we even mention Trump, people are saying you shouldn't worship or put your faith in. I don't mean it like that. I just mean like I have faith that he's gonna do a good job. I know even that's kind of a little controversial in the Christian community, but I do. I think and I could be wrong, but I think that it's positive. I do think that the rules he probably put in place for Qatar, or I'll just use that pronunciation, Qatar. I'm sure that they're very strict in that, hey, if you break this, I'm gonna break you. Like that, I could see that being the case, and they know that that's the kind of guy he is. Like you don't want to take his kindness for weakness. So I think they know that, even if in their heart of hearts, or even if they have malice in their plans to go, obviously we're not really going to go along with this guy. Like whatever they might be planning, I'm going to assume and have hope that the president and the leaders around him are one step ahead of whatever the evil leadership of Qatar might want to do. or Qatar might want to do. I, as far as Israel, of course, I have different feelings. I like our support of Israel, and I think that it's fundamental for the West because that's where the Bible came from. That's where Jesus walked, and that's where he's going to return. So I know we have a historic connection there. But I think that it seems like a good and positive thing that's going on. Obviously, with the caveat of, very questionable because Qatar is, like we've said a few times already, a big supporter of terrorism. But I don't think Trump would do this if he didn't think he could have them on, let's just call it a leash.
Yeah. No, it's definitely weird, and I have some more thoughts on that. But while we're waiting for Alex, let's go to one of to Abby